Hello, and welcome to this video on using the new Band-in-a-Box for Mac DAW plugin, specifically using it in FL Studio. With Band-in-a-Box 2019 for Mac, we've introduced a plugin version of Band-in-a-Box that accesses all of the real tracks, real drums, and other content in Band-in-a-Box, but can be used right inside your favorite DAW without having to open the actual Band-in-a-Box application. The plugin comes free with the purchase of Band-in-a-Box 2019, and the plugin also automatically installs when you install the main program. In this video, we're going to have a look at the various ways you can use this amazing plugin in FL Studio. If you use a different DAW, we have other videos that demonstrate it in many other DAWs such as Reaper, Pro Tools, Ableton Live, Logic, GarageBand, and more. In this video, we'll first look at a quick and easy way to get started using the plugin, and we'll also go through some of the technical aspects, such as the preferences within the plugin. And then we'll look at different ways you can use the plugin, including adding Band-in-a-Box tracks to an existing project you're working on. And throughout the video, I'm going to try and use a variety of different Band-in-a-Box styles, so you'll get a sense of some of the different genres, grooves, and tempos we cover. Whether you're into jazz, rock, country, R&B, or any styles you can think of, there's something in Band-in-a-Box for you. So what we're listening to right now are some great funk tracks playing in FL Studio that we created with the plugin. Most of what you're hearing right now was created with the Band-in-a-Box plugin simply by typing in these chords, and you can enter any chords in any key. Then we picked this funk style and generated the tracks. We then added a few additional electronic sounds right in FL Studio to round out the project. I'm going to go back in time a little bit to show you just how we got these great sounding tracks. So here we are with a blank FL Studio project. This is the playlist or tracks area. Here is the mixer window. And here is the channel rack. And this is the browser area. And since this is a plugin, we want to click the plug icon. The first time you're using the Band-in-a-Box plugin, you might want to refresh the plugins list first, just to make sure the BB plugin is recognized. But after that, it should be located under Installed, Generators, and then under both Audio Units and VST3. And you can just drag it to the channels rack. A quick little tip to load the plugin a little bit quicker would be adding it to your favorite plugins. You can do this by right-clicking on the plugin database and selecting Manage Plugins. This will open the Plugins Manager, where all of your available plugins are listed. Locate the Band-in-a-Box plugin in the list and select the star icon to add to your favorite plugins. And now you can simply use this plus icon in the channel rack to add the Band-in-a-Box plugin. So this is the Band-in-a-Box plugin. It's sizable, so I'll make it bigger. And now we have a blank chord chart. This area here is for the different instruments in the style, and it's currently blank because we don't have a style loaded yet. Here's where you can pick a style. Here you can set various musical elements such as key, time signature, etc. And there's a spot for a song title and various menus we'll look at later. What we basically need to do in order to get some tracks is pick a style and enter some chords, but not necessarily in that order. So I'll enter a chord progression first. I'll do it in the key of F, and I'll start entering some chords. F7 at bar 1, and I'll leave that for 4 bars. Maybe A flat 7 sus at bar 5, and B flat 7 at bar 7. One thing I want to point out is that you use the left and right arrows to navigate your way through the chord chart, but the left and right arrows are also used in the plugin window of FL Studio to toggle through additional plugin settings within FL Studio. So depending where you last clicked, you might be toggling through these windows when you're intending on toggling through the chord chart. If that happens, just keep pressing the arrow keys until you're back here, and then make sure you click on the chord chart again, and things should be fine. I'll use a handy shortcut, K8, to copy the last 8 bars. I'll also add a part marker at bar 9 to outline the form of the song, and that means that the drums will play a fill in the bar right before that part marker. At bar 17, I'll add a part marker as well, but I'll click a second time to make it a B part marker, which means the drums and sometimes other instruments will change what they are playing at that part. And I'll enter G minor, then C minor at bar 19, G minor at bar 21 again, and then C7 at bar 23. I think that's good, and I'll change some of the elements up here. I'll make the end bar 24, but I'll actually end on an F chord. And I'll change the choruses to 6, so this entire thing will repeat 6 times. So now we can select a style, either by clicking in the Select a Style area, or by going to the Select menu and picking Select a Style. So here is a list of all the Band-in-a-Box styles available. And you can see here, there is over 6,000 to choose from. And in this list, you can just double click on any style in the list to hear a sample of what it will sound like. So for example, if I filtered the list by jazz styles, I could sample some of them. Or some rock styles. Or some country styles. But I think the progression I entered would be very well suited for some funk styles, so I'll filter by that. I'll sample a variety of some funk styles. And I love this lash out style. You'll notice that in this column it shows the ideal tempo for the style, which for this one is 110 beats per minute. That does not mean you have to use it at that tempo, but if it's somewhat close to that, you'll get the best result. So I'll pick that style. So now there's a tap tempo feature in FL Studio that I'll use. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's come up with 117 beats per minute, and I'll set that in the plugin as well. So now we're ready to generate the parts. And there are some custom generation options in this menu, but right now I just want all the tracks generated normally, so I'll just press the top Generate button. So now it's creating the tracks, and you'll notice right now that there are some green squares and some blue squares in this area, and those squares are empty. When the tracks are ready, those squares will be filled in. The generation does take a little bit of time, so we'll skip ahead in the video a little bit. So now it's finished, and these squares are now filled in with waveform icons, meaning they are ready to drag into your DAW. Before we do that, we can sample these tracks by pressing play up here. And we can now drag them into the DAW, either individually but I'll undo that so I can show you importing them as a group by dragging the blue icon. And now we have these tracks right in our DAW. And during playback, the chord chart also highlights the current playing bar. In itself, a great tool if you want to record your own tracks now over top of this, or if you just want to play along. Now you'll notice that if you look in the mixer, these tracks are not there. That's because they are not assigned because FL Studio is used frequently for patterns. So it's often important to be able to mix different elements within a pattern differently. The tracks in the playlist don't necessarily correspond to the inserts in the mixer. But if I right-click on these tracks, I can assign them to the inserts in the mixer, and the inserts you assign them to do not need to match up to the track numbers either. By default, FL Studio Project has kick, clap, hat, and snare assigned to inserts 1 through 4. So I'll assign these new Band-in-a-Box tracks to inserts 5 and up. And also name them based on the audio file names. We can now mix these tracks, of course, add effects, or anything we like. And as with all real tracks and real drums, these are real instruments played by real musicians. These are not individually sampled notes. These are actual performances by some of the top studio musicians in the world, able to play over any chord progression in any key you enter. This particular style has a bass part played by Alex Al, one of the most sought-after bass players in LA, who played in Michael Jackson's band for over 10 years, and has also played with the likes of Stevie Wonder, Sting, and many more. And on guitar is Bob Lanzetti. Baritone guitar, Mark Lettieri. And drummer Sput Seawright, all of whom were a major part of the New York funk and fusion scene. Now we can also start to add to this using some of the great resources within FL Studio. For example, the drums here are fantastic, but let's beef them up with some extra modern electronic kick and clap sounds. I'll click here to create a new pattern, and I'll call it Kick and Clap. As I mentioned earlier, there are 4 default tracks in the channel rack: kick, clap, hat, and snare. More can be added, but I'll use those in this pattern. Now I'll enter some notes in the channel rack, which is basically a step sequencer. I'll keep it simple, putting a kick on beat 1 and claps on beat 2 and 4. Now I'll switch from song to pattern beside the play button, so I can listen to this pattern. I'd like to try some different sounds out for these, so I'll stop that and go to the browser. I'll go to Packs, Drums, Kicks, and I'll click on them to sample them. And I like this minimal kick 40, so I'll drag that onto the kick here. And I'll do the same with claps, going to percussion, and I like this dance clap 1. And now I'll drag the pattern in and duplicate it through the track. And here is how it sounds with that. And now I'd like to add a simple synth line to this. I'll add a new pattern like before, and I'll call it Synth. I'll add an actual synth to use by going to the plugin database. And I'll pick a classic synth. And I'll try out this poise zone oscillating synth. Now I'll select the blank pattern I created and press the piano roll button. And I'll enter an F note for 4 bars, which will be playing over the F7 chord. And then I'll go to an E flat, which will be playing over the A flat 7 sus chord, and then a D, which will be playing over the B flat 7 chord. I'll drag that pattern to a blank track and give it a listen. It's pretty cool, but a little overpowering. But if I go in and out with the low frequency oscillation value, or LFO, I can bring it in and out and make it a bit more subtle. So if I right click on that particular parameter within the plugin, I can create automation clip. which adds that parameter to the timeline. I can right-click to add points, which I can move up and down. So I can have it swell at every other bar, making it a lot more subtle. So let's check that out. So you can see, using the Band-in-a-Box plugin as a starting point, you can get a great foundation where you can then start adding great other material with the amazing tools in FL Studio. You can also, of course, start with the tools in FL Studio, and then use the Band-in-a-Box plugin to add to that. We will have a look at an example that uses this approach a little later in the video, and we'll also go over the preferences within the plugin. But right now, I'm going to show you some similar but quicker examples like this, with a few different styles, so you can get a sense of the scope of what you can do with the Band-in-a-Box plugin. Here I am typing in some chords like I did before, but this time I'll pick a hard rock style. Setting the tempo and generating the tracks. Now I'm dragging them in. And I've got some great hard rock tracks in my project. Here I am typing in some new chords for a bluegrass song I want to put together. Here I am picking a bluegrass style, generating the tracks, and now dragging them in. And now I've got some cool bluegrass tracks in my project. In addition to actually typing in the chords, you can also just open an actual Band-in-a-Box song file. Either files you've created in the Band-in-a-Box app, or files people have sent you, or even demos that come with Band-in-a-Box. I'm going to open a Band-in-a-Box song file that features a country style that includes a soloist by the amazing Nashville legend Johnny Highland. So we now have the entire thing entered for us, the chord progression, key, form, etc. So I'll just generate the tracks. Now I'll drag them in. And here's a great country style with Johnny Highland soloing over the changes. I'll do the same file open thing to check out the demo for a Samba Brazil style, loading a song that features a style with legendary Alex Acuna on drums and percussion, as well as the amazing Ramon Stagnaro on guitar. I'll generate, drag the tracks in, and here it is playing. Let's load up the plugin again and check out some of the settings within the plugin. At the top, we can choose our language if we have any of the international language patches installed. In the rendering section of the preferences, there are various options for your renders. For the master mix, you can choose to render a flat mix, a dry mix, and a center pan mix. On the right, you can choose options like normalizing, acidizing, and padding for multi-riffs. The multi-riff padding puts blank space on either side of the audio. You can also choose to allow multi-riffs to start early and end late. notify when generations are complete, and auto-generate loaded songs instead of waiting for you to click generate. Clear renders will clear the audio files that are currently saved in the Band-in-a-Box folder, which is Applications, Band-in-a-Box, DAW Plugin, Saved Tracks, and then subfolders within there. This is something you need to be very careful about. You should only use this option if you're confident about your workflow within FL Studio. By default, if you just save a project in FL Studio, and you have audio associated with that project is referencing the original location of the audio. So if you use this feature to delete all of the audio that is in the plugins folder, you can potentially ruin not only the current project, but also previous projects as well. However, if when you save as a zipped song file, then that does save all of the audio in the project along with the project itself. If that's how you always work when dealing with FL Studio projects that contain audio, then you can safely use the clear render feature. But you need to be very confident with your workflow. In general, the audio in that folder doesn't take up a huge amount of space on your hard drive, so if you have the hard drive space, the safest thing is just to leave it alone. Below, we have our folder location preferences. This area allows you to specify Band-in-a-Box program, real tracks, real drums, and save tracks locations. Usually, you want to leave these as they are automatically set. There is likely no reason this would need to be changed, but if they were pointing to an incorrect location, it would appear in red, and pressing the Find Folders button would set it correctly automatically. You can also set these locations manually by pressing the Select button. At the bottom of the preferences, you'll find the DAW settings, where you can change the host DAW. This is also set automatically and should be correct already, but you can change it if it's wrong. You can also choose whether you would like bar highlighting in the chord sheet. So earlier on, we saw how we could use the plugin to make some funk tracks from scratch. But now I'm going to show you how you can use it to add tracks to something you've already recorded. So I've got a project in FL Studio that I've been working on, a modern take on the old American folk song O Shenandoah. Let's listen to a little bit. So I'll add some Band-in-a-Box tracks to that. I like all the tracks I've got so far, but I like to add maybe some real instruments to give it a bit more of an organic flavor. So I'll add the Band-in-a-Box plugin to create some tracks to add. First, I'll make sure the tempo matches the project, 87 beats per minute. There is not 2 bars of silence at the beginning, but there is a 2-bar intro, and I don't think I want the Band-in-a-Box instruments to start until the vocals start, so I'll leave the lead in. So now I'll just start typing the chords. C, E minor, F, C. I'll skip ahead in the video until I'm done that. And now the whole thing is typed in. And the chord chart is actually only 13 bars, but repeated 5 times. And now, just like earlier, we can pick a style. And as we saw before, there are over 6,000 styles to choose from. And we'll use filters to find what we want. Our song is 87 beats per minute, so I'll filter by a close tempo, 85. And it's even eighths, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, so I'll filter by that. And I know there's some really cool new Americana styles, so I'll just type in Americana in the text filter as well. And I'll try a few of these just by double clicking on them. And I really like this one, and it's recorded at 70 beats per minute, so not too far from our 87. So I'll try that one. Now remember, even though all these instruments will be generated, we don't need to use them all, and I might just want a couple of them. So now I can generate the part. Again, we'll skip ahead a little bit in the video. Here is the dialog that pops up when the tracks are ready. And now I'll drag in the 5-string fiddle and the mandolin. I'll assign them to inserts so we can mix them and auto-name them. And let's give that a listen. I'll also solo them so we can hear them in more detail. And it sounds great. So now I want to start adding some more tracks to this. For example, this empty space here could use something, maybe a lead instrument of some sort. So in this file, it's just these bars I want to generate, which is those 4 bars of instrumental break between verses. So if I was actually recording someone doing a lead line over this section, I might get them to do several passes, and then I could pick the best one, or even comp together a part taking elements from the different takes. And with this plugin, we can emulate exactly that, with the multi-riff feature. Now this is the real tracks picker, distinct from the style picker we saw earlier, in that this is for picking individual instruments rather than full band combos, which are styles. Now I don't necessarily think a solo would be appropriate in this empty space, but maybe something melodic like a pedal steel part maybe. I'll filter by pedal steel, and I'll also filter by even eighths. At a tempo of 70 to 90, and I'll sample a couple. I really like this dreamy single note pedal steel, so I think I'll just use that one. So now it's the same real tracks in 7 different slots, which is what the multi-riff does. Now these 4 bars are highlighted, but it's actually going to generate a bar before as well. The reason for that is there is often a pickup leading into the bar, particularly with soloists, and this ensures that that pickup won't be cut off. So now under Generate, I'll go to Custom and generate all riffs in the multi-riff area. And I'll skip ahead in the video again. So those are now done, and like before, I can grab the blue icon to drag them all into the DAW. So first, I'll assign inserts to all of these tracks, and open the mixer and mute them all but the first. And I'll listen to a few. That one's not bad. I'll keep listening. And I think I like this one best. So let's check that out from the beginning. seen full styles being used. We've seen multi-riffs. There are also options for individual reel tracks, which can be loaded in this middle area as well, including user tracks and reel drums. So you can start to see the possibilities with this amazing plugin. Thanks very much for watching and have fun.